Hi, I'm Brendan from Reality Wargames, and welcome to the first video in the series of battle reports on this channel. Today I'm going to be playing Rangers of Shadow Deep as a solo campaign. This is my first time playing the game. If you don't know what Rangers of Shadow Deep is, it's a miniatures RPG for 1 to 4 players, cooperative against an enemy AI, and I'm going to be playing the main book campaign. So just starting from the first mission in the main book. And I'm using this as an opportunity to try out the game, to learn the rules for when I might want to play with some other people, and to also get a taste for what Frostgrave might be like, which is another game by the same author that I haven't played. So sit back and enjoy Scenario 1 of Mission 1, The Missing, and stick around for the end of the video for my thoughts on the scenario and the game.
My line of battle begins with my ranger, James Sylvan, and his fox companion, Alexander. I've given my ranger +2 to their shoot and +1 to their move. They also have the heroic ability, Deadly Shot, and the spell, Burning Mark. For skills, I've given them 2 to climb, 2 to navigation, 2 to perception, 2 to read runes, 1 to stealth, 1 to strength, 1 to survival. 2 to survival, 2 to swim, 1 to track, and 1 to traps. They're carrying a bow, hand weapon, light armor, a quiver, and a rope. For his companions for this adventure, we have Anne Sylvan, his partner, the tracker. She has stealth as her starting skill. Next up is Big Adam, the savage, and he's taken strength as his starting skill. We have Trenlo the Bold, who is a swordsman, and Trenlo has leadership as his starting skill. Next up is Benji the Conjurer. Benji has taken Hold Creature and Magic Bolt as his spells, and he has Read Runes as his starting skill. And last up, rounding out the party, is the Rogue, Mad Dog Verno. Mad Dog Verno has Acrobatics as his starting skill.
For this scenario, I've laid out the village according to the rules, and I've set up the party in the center of the village. For the houses, I selected this house randomly as the first one to contain a clue, and its door is locked, which is marked by the token in front of it. Another building with a red token containing a clue is this one over here. The remaining clues are set up on the corners. So there was one next to this building over here. It got moved. There's one behind the tavern. Another is in this building, which I interpreted as not being locked since it wasn't one of the randomly selected buildings, but the token still ended up in the building as per the setup rules. And finally, there's another token in this building over here. I selected 2 buildings randomly to have giant rats adjacent to them. I'm using these unpainted Skaven figures to represent the giant rats. I didn't really know what adjacent to the building meant, so I just thought the rat was creeping around the side of the building. Another randomly selected building was this locked one containing a clue, and so there's another unpainted Skaven figure guarding the building. Coming in from the edges of the table, we have a zombie, another zombie, there's a zombie on this side which also ended up in the house, so that zombie will be kicking his way through the door. And this figure is finally acting as a zombie, also lurking in behind this building. Before the scenario starts, I had James Sylvan roll a perception check, He rolled an 11 with a 2 modified, and so I ended up moving this clue outside of the building 6 inches closer to the party.
It's turn 1 during my ranger's activation, and Trenlo the Bold has encountered the first clue. So their action ends, and we're going to roll the clue. The result is a 13. So that is herbs. We find some herbs discarded by one of the villagers. Roll on the herbs and potion table to see what we've discovered. The herbs and potions roll resulted in a 1. So that's going to be some drumlock weed. A rat has climbed the ledge to attack Anne Sylvan, and Big Adam has stepped in to force combat. At the bottom of turn 1, drawing an event card, and it will be the red 3, zombies. Turn 1 recap. James Sylvan stepped forward and shot the first zombie coming towards the town dead with his bow. Anne Sylvan shot and missed the rat beside this house over here. But when the rat stepped up to attack her, Big Adam was able to intercept and kill it. Big Adam's stepping forward to engage this zombie that came out of the house. And the rest of the party just lined up with James. Trenlo the Bold found the first clue, and it was some herbs. It was a satchel of drumlock weed. And after the event spawned more zombies, one from the north edge and one more from the east edge, joining his companion behind this house. Trenlo is attempting to break down the door, needing an 8. Plus 3 on the roll. 20. Critical success. Turn 2 event phase will be nothing. Turn 2 recap. Mad Dog Verno approached the house and threw his throwing knife at the first zombie but missed. James managed to hit the zombie for 9 damage with his bow and kill him. Then Trenlo stepped up to the door and kicked it down with no problems at all. Up on the town square, Anne shot her bow at the approaching zombie and missed. But then she went and approached it. The zombie engaged her in combat, and Adam outflanked and killed the zombie. No events at the end of the round. So the zombies approached from the north and from the east. Mad Dog Verno enters the first locked house and uncovers the next clue. Let's see what it is. "19. It's a zombie. Replace the clue marker with a zombie. And Mad Dog Verno will have his next action to fight the zombie. The event for turn 3 is a red 2. 2 additional zombies on the table at the center points of randomly determined table edges. One will be north, 2 east, 3 south, and 4 west. North and east. The recap for turn 3. Mad Dog Verno entered the first locked house and discovered a zombie, but promptly dispatched it with his dagger.
With his what?
His dagger. You heard me. James shot the zombie behind this wall and killed it. The rest of the companions moved up alongside him. Anne and Adam are just moving towards this building to discover the next clue. And there are 2 more zombies appearing. One from the north and one more from the east, as the others lurch forward towards the heroes.
and discovers another clue in the house of the southwest. What'll it be? 8 is strange tracks. So we're going to make a track roll to try and determine their nature. And that's a good thing because Anne herself is a tracker. So Anne is going to make a track roll at +5 against a target of 6. She makes a success. The event for turn 4. Nothing. Turn 4 recap. James shot the zombie approaching the town square and missed, and the rest of the heroes, his companions, gathered around to engage the foe in melee. Meanwhile, another zombie approaches from the north. Anne Sylvan managed to search this house and discover some tracks, which she determined their origin. So Big Adam is coming across the town square to help out with the remaining zombies and the locked houses. The other zombies approach from the east. Turn 5's event is Red 7, collapse. One of the buildings collapses randomly. This one will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we'll reroll 6s. 3. This building collapses. No one is inside or within 2 inches, so they're safe. Turn 5, recap. James killed the zombie that the party was fighting, and another 2 have come to engage the rest of them. Adam kicked down this last locked door, and Verno and Anne witness this building collapse, but they are safe, being more than 2 inches away. The next clue has been uncovered by Big Adam, and let's see what it is. 16. Treasure. Treat the clue marker as a treasure token. If this token is being carried by a hero at the end of a scenario, we may roll to see what treasure has been found. Recap of turn 6. Trenlo engaged the zombie in front of the locked house and killed it, and moved up to engage the other zombie coming in from the north. James stepped up and missed, and then Benji stepped up with his staff and crushed the zombie. This other zombie moved up and inflicted a 20 against Benji, causing 9 damage. Big Adam moved into the locked house and found a treasure. Mad Dog Verno moved into the last house containing a treasure, or a clue, and the second to last clue on the table. And Anne is just moving in to offer some support against the last remaining zombie on the field. Let's see what the event is for turn 6. Nothing. Second to last clue, now found by Mad Dog Verno. Let's have a look. 19 is a zombie. We've already rolled that result. 18 is treasure. We've already rolled that result. 13 is herbs. We've already rolled that result. 9 is strange tracks. Another one we've already rolled. 10, the mutilated body. Discover a body with strange bite marks. We can make a survival roll. So let's see if Mad Dog Verno has any bonuses to survival. It looks like he does not. So it's going to be a straight up roll against target 6. 18 makes it. The event for turn 7 is Red 5, a giant rat, placing it as near to a hero as it can get while still being in contact with a building. I think that means it has to be Mad Dog Verno. I mean, he's inside a building.
Otherwise, we've got Big Adam, who is in contact with the building. But since Mad Dog Verno is deep inside of this building, the rat will appear there. In turn 7, Trenlow crushed another zombie in front of the tavern. The other heroes went to investigate this clue behind the tavern. Mad Dog Verno managed to find a clue in this building and uncover and identify bite marks on a mutilated body. But just as he did, a giant rat appeared directly behind him, blocking his path. James has uncovered the last clue, and since there's only 2 options remaining, we're just going to roll low and high. It's low, so it's the body of Aventine. We've discovered the missing ranger, and James needs to make an armory roll of target number 6. For armory, James has +0, so this is going to be a straight up roll, needing a 6. It's an 8, so we're going to discover the magic sword of Aventine. Turn 8, the last event. Red 8, Terror. The hero with the lowest will stat on the table has to make an immediate will roll. Otherwise, it can't activate next turn. I think I just won't make that roll. After the 8th and final turn, James has finally discovered the body of the missing ranger Aventine and has secured his magic sword to be returned to the King's Armory. The rest of the heroes gathered up next to the town square to see what sort of treasure was discovered. And in the house, Mad Dog Verno and the rat were engaged in vicious combat, but neither were able to injure the other. Time for a treasure roll. 19 is a magic item. Let's roll on the magic item table. 15. A gemstone of heart light. Let's have a look at what that is. The gemstone of heart light. A figure carrying the gem may discard it during its activation to gain an extra action. This may not take a figure above 3 actions. Sounds pretty good. With Scenario 1 complete, James Sylvan has earned 87 experience points. All of the companions have survived uninjured and gain 1 progression point. We also received a Drimlock Weed. For our other treasure, we found a gemstone of heart light, and we have the magic sword Greensteel for one of our heroes to use in the next scenario. So, what are my thoughts after my first game of Rangers of Shadowdeep? The first one is that was easy. I did very well in this scenario. My characters suffered no injuries. I managed to complete all of the objectives that I possibly could have. I uncovered all of the clue tokens, and the only way I could have done better in that respect is if I had uncovered slightly better clues like the survivor instead of, for example, the tracks, which would have given me a bit more experience. But as far as my heroes emerging unscathed and completing all of the objectives, as well as clearing the entire board of enemies, Scenario 1 went about as well as it could have. Now, I think that Scenario 1 should probably be easy, and it's probably tuned to be easy, since it's going to be most players' first game of Rangers of Shadowdeep, and they'll have the least experience, and maybe I come in with a bit of wargaming and RPG experience that helps me in this respect. But I still had some thoughts about the difficulty level. For example, all of the monsters in my particular game died on 1 hit. Whenever I managed to hit a monster, they would die. So a few times, the least amount of damage I dealt to a zombie was 6, but that was still enough to kill it. So this didn't leave a lot of room for interesting tactics, I guess. There was a couple of missed shots. For example, Mad Dog Inferno missed his throwing knife, and that made me reconsider my tactics and have to fight the zombie another way. But still, I managed to kill it in a single hit and not take any damage. The only actual damage that I did sustain was on Benji, my conjurer. Benji actually took a 20 from a zombie, and that ended up dealing 9 damage with his staff. Now, I don't know if this should have killed him, but I think I expected it to kill him. When I saw the 20, I was assuming that my conjurer was dead, since he's a little magic user, and he just took a massive hit and probably wouldn't have a lot of armor or health. But he had enough armor and health to easily sustain the hit, which tells me that it would take more than one zombie hit to kill my conjurer. There's no single zombie hit that could kill my conjurer, which feels a little bit, I don't know, disappointing. And it's not like things didn't go okay for the scenario. I did draw events that spawned additional zombies, events that collapsed a building, but just none of it was able to hurt my heroes. In a lot of cases, one monster would approach at a time. I did uncover a couple of monsters on clues that surprised me, but I was never surrounded or overwhelmed by more than one zombie. I was always able to kill the zombies one at a time, turn after turn. And when the next zombie was approaching, I would just keep my party just out of range such that the zombie could reach them with 2 movements, but not have a chance to fight. And then my heroes could just kill the zombie in the next round. And I did all this without pre-measuring, so for what it's worth. Now, like I said, Scenario 1 probably should be easy, Mission 1 probably should be easy, so I want to play some more and get a better feel for the difficulty. But some things I considered were just that if the zombie had 8 health instead of 6, then a couple of zombies would have survived a couple of hits and maybe made the game a little bit more tactically interesting, and I probably still would have done just fine. I also considered that if the monsters had critical hits, then that zombie could have actually killed my conjurer in one blow, which feels a bit more threatening than necessitating 2 hits from a zombie in order to kill what should be, I think, my weakest character. Maybe I'm wrong there. As far as the rest of the game, I really enjoyed it. The game plays very smooth and snappy. It took me a long time to get through turn 1, just so I could learn the rules, but once I did, I played the rest of the game in almost the time that it took me to complete the first turn. There was a little bit of rules ambiguity. It definitely reads like a game that was written by a single author and just put out there. So it's not to say that it's incomplete or clumsy, but there was just a few wording that I found awkward and a little bit of ambiguity in Scenario 1. For example, around the buildings, like which buildings contained clue markers, which buildings were locked. It happened that the way I set up the table, there were clues inside of buildings that were not the randomly selected buildings to be locked. Maybe those buildings could have been locked, or maybe not. I also wasn't sure when it came to the collapse which buildings I should select to roll. Maybe I should have rolled only for the initially randomly determined locked buildings, but I ended up rolling for all of the buildings since it just said one building collapses randomly. The building that did collapse was one that didn't even contain any of the clue markers or anything, so I don't know why any heroes would have a reason to be in that building. Maybe this is another reason that it contributed to what I felt like was an easy scenario. But let me know what you thought. Let me know what you think of Scenario 1 and the difficulty level, and tell me why I'm wrong.